I'm going to be discussing this and a lot more with my guests now. Siraj Hussain, the former Agriculture Secretary, as well as Viran Shetty. Siraj Hussain, sir, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to come to you first. You know, prior to even today's meeting with the chief ministers, in which it is believed the state of Punjab has sought concession for the farmers, the Prime Minister has been meeting chief ministers on the issue of the agriculture sector. It's harvest season. We can't have a situation where India goes into a famine. In fact, you know, the Prime Minister believed while opening the video conferencing today with an address, think jaan thi pehle ab jaan aur jahan dono dekhni hai. So having said that, it's harvesting season. He wants it exempted for the rural sector, it would seem, albeit with you know, social distancing and other norms. Is this even possible? Is it possible to lift exemptions, to have exemptions for social distancing, to exit the lockdown in a staggered manner, particularly for the hinterland?
See, the Government of India, from the Ministry of Agriculture and the Indian Council of Agriculture Research, have already issued detailed guidelines on 31st March as to how harvesting is to be done and how the crop is to be marketed in mandis. So the agriculture sector and the agriculture marketing is already exempted from the lockdown. Of course, due precautions have to be taken by everyone. And the ICR has issued very detailed guidelines how harvesting is to be done, how the produce is to be marketed, transported, etc. In Punjab, I understand that the state government is also working to decentralize the operations of procurement as much as possible and to open more procurement centers. Last year, there were some 1,800 centers. This year, there are going to be 4,000 centers. So the governments are doing everything, but I think the harvesting will start in full swing from 16th to about 20th of this month. And if we take all the precautions, I think procurement should not suffer.
Right, procurement should not suffer. You think it is indeed possible? Also joining me is Dr. Ramesh Chand, from the Niti Aayog. Sir, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on ET Now. First up, I hope you, your family and everyone at Niti Aayog is indeed safe and healthy. Having said that, sir, you've just heard what Siraj Hussain has just said. Procurement will be key, supply will be key. We've been hearing about how the government is also looking at empanelment of truck aggregators to make sure that India doesn't have a shortage of food. Sir, if I could lean on your expertise and ask you, what could be the best way for India to exit this lockdown? There are beliefs that it must be staggered, but the hinterland must open up.
I agree with Mr. Siraj Hussain that both marketing as well as harvesting, they are the key. When we talk of exemption for agriculture, those are not the exemption in terms of compliances for COVID-19. You can undertake agriculture operation while observing social distance. So coming to these two particular activities, you may be knowing that right now the most important crop for the country is wheat. And in some of the districts in northwest India, more than 80% area is sown under wheat crop. And we also know how important wheat crop is for national food security. Well, as far as harvest scenario is concerned, it has undergone sea change in the last couple of years. Harvesting, threshing, it has been mechanized to large extent. I have data, we have cost of cultivation data, which shows that now more than 80% of wheat is harvested using combine harvesters. So this is a machine which just harvests top part, spike part, grain parts. Then after that, if some farmer is interested to use the stem to make wheat straw, we have another machine, that is harvesters, which convert wheat into wheat busa. So this is the machine available. So no doubt there will be some hardship, there will be some inconvenience, some difficulty, because even with this kind of mechanization, you require some labor to handle the produce, to just collect it, to store it, to handle the grain, fill the bag, load, unload. All those things are required. The reports which I am getting from the ground is that lot of labor which has been working in non-farm sector, construction sector, and industry, some of them are now willing and also available to work in agriculture. So you will find that though migrant labor will be available less in number, but this labor which earlier worked in construction, in industry, many of them, if wage rate is attractive, you will find that they will be moving to agriculture and they will be working in agriculture. So it is here that exemption become important, that do not stop their movement, rather facilitate their movement. Let people from small town move to country.
Over there, please allow me to interrupt you. Dr. Rameshchandra, allow me to interrupt you there. I want to just ask you one thing, which then I'm quoting now directly from a press release issued by the Prime Minister's office, which states, Prime Minister talked about strengthening healthcare infrastructure and reaching out to patients through telemedicine. I'm going to come to Viren Shetty for this, but the press release goes on to say, Prime Minister also suggested that direct marketing for farm produce can be incentivized to prevent crowding in mandis, for which model APMC laws should be reformed swiftly. Such steps will help farmers sell products at their doorstep. So, you know, desperate times call for desperate measures. It also sometimes means that you can have sweeping legislations that for various political reasons have not been possible. Look at the way the Supreme Court has been digitized in a matter of days. But is it possible for the agriculture sector to see these kind of sweeping reforms? Remember, this also comes directly under the states, and we have to get realistic. At the start of a season, you do see the middlemen, book crops with the farmers. They're the ones who usually benefit from any price escalation. They're the ones who are responsible for burning of crops or destroying of crops when there is a crash in prices as well. So while the Prime Minister is talking about this, he's talking about riding on apps like ride-hailing aggregators. Is it feasible? Is it practical? And how will it be done so?
Last more than 15 years, I feel we must make use of this crisis to implement these reforms. What Prime Minister has suggested is that if not to undertake APMC Act reform, at least for this period, next few months, let us give relaxation in APMC rules. Because APMC rule requires all farmers to bring their produce to mandis. Then auction happens, then the produce move to the next channels. This way, lakhs of farmers are required to bring their produce to one place. So if you give relaxation, then you are allowing some of the traders to buy from the farmers. You are allowing some of the farmers to deliver their produce at the processing facility, at the warehouses, and this facilitates in large number of ways. So let us for the time being forget about the benefit of these changes in APMC Act, but just to see to it that crowding doesn't happen. I think if this relaxation is given, then we will see to it that this fear that coronavirus through contact when people are near to each other, we know it's spread. So we can at least avoid this thing to large extent. So this is the spirit behind giving relaxation in APMC Act, that no doubt it is very desirable on economic ground to reduce large price spread, to benefit consumer, to benefit producers. But today it is needed to check the spread of coronavirus.
As they say that with crisis, you also get opportunities. And here's clearly the Prime Minister hoping to do that. This could be one of the biggest reforms for the Indian economy as well. And while we're still awaiting the stimulus package, I think it's pretty much expected the lockdown will be increased and extended beyond 14th of April to the 1st. I would like to point out this is not official as yet, but you have seen lots of states take this decision and announce it. Even before today's meeting with the Prime Minister, you had seen the states of Rajasthan, Punjab and Orissa make it official. The Karnataka Chief Minister, after his meeting with the Prime Minister, has announced that the lockdown will extend in the state of Karnataka till the 30th. Now, Uddhav Thackeray is doing a press conference in Maharashtra and talking about extending the lockdown till the 30th. These are very large states in the country which are now coming out and extending the lockdown officially. Prime Minister, of course, may address the nation, may come out with a statement. We're being told no announcement from him today. If I could now go to Viren Shetty on this, I want to lean on you for the healthcare aspect. We've seen a quick escalation. It's perhaps, but you know, the silver lining is it has not multiplied as fast in other countries like we saw in Italy, in South Korea, in America. I think the jury's out whether it's to do with the Indian immune system, all of that. Let's not speculate. But Viren Shetty, when it comes to the healthcare infrastructure, clearly the government is doing the lockdown for two reasons: to contain the coronavirus, and do you believe also maybe to have the infrastructure in place, the importing of the equipment, the importing of kits to carry out the tests. We're seeing some Make in India tests also now being accepted. How has the infrastructure build up been over the last 10, 12 days?
Kits to carry out the tests. We see some Make in India tests also now being accepted. How has the infrastructure build up been over the last 10, 12 days?
We have been trying to source and scramble around to get as many supplies as possible, but you have to appreciate that it is very difficult to negotiate all these things during a lockdown. A lot of international traffic no longer flows to India. A lot of our ports are stuck. A lot of forms and files and things that normally in normal days does take quite a while becomes exponentially more difficult during a lockdown. But it's not to say that every concerned department has been doing their best. We've been getting tremendous support from the government in trying to go through the bottlenecks in that, but still, we still have a bit of a shortage in ventilators. We have a shortage in PPE kits. We're definitely short in testing, and these additional few weeks that come will allow us to at least, on one hand, slow down the influx of cases coming in, as well as allow us more time to stock up on kits and equipment.
You know, once again, I come to this point, and I'd quoted from the Prime Minister's office's press release that they even in this meeting with the state chief ministers while exiting the lockdown, which looks like will be extended till the 30th, will it be a blanket lockdown? Will we see a staggered exit with a special emphasis on rural India? You've just heard two of India's largest agriculture experts talk about how we have to be able to harvest the wheat, access it, allow supplies. The other fear, Viren Shetty, comes with medicines. It's not just about, you know, the pre-malaria drug, whether we're exporting it, if enough supply is here. But, you know, India is the diabetic capital of the world. You have a lot of other diseases which are not going anywhere. And there is a fear that are those supply chains being disrupted? Can you give us an idea of where things stand? On one hand, we hear about how Indians must not hoard. But if you're going to have an extension of the lockdown, are the pharmaceutical companies able to supply the drugs all over India?
On one hand, we hear about Indians must not hoard. But if you're going to have an extension of a lockdown, are the pharmaceutical companies able to supply the drugs all over India?
I think we're having an audio issue with Viren Shetty. We're going to try and fix that. But you know, when you're talking about the extension of the lockdown, Siraj Hussain, let me come in here. And I want to once again ask you the same question that we were asking when it comes to healthcare. There was fears on the first few days of the lockdown, especially on the night it was announced, on that Tuesday evening when the Prime Minister announced it on 24th of March, panic buying in shops and all of that. It's a harvest season. So far, we've not heard of shortages of food supply, but that has to be sustained 8 till 1st May, and then beyond that, during a harvest season. What would, according to you, be the best way to exit the lockdown? In what way do you stagger it and make sure that jaan hai or jahan bhi hai?
See, the government has very good advisors who will scan the current situation and the possibility of situation becoming more adverse as we proceed. And after considering these things, the government will take a decision. So I go by the decision of the government. Whatever is decided by the government will be in the interest of the nation. However, I must point out that the food industry and the agriculture sector have been facing enormous problems, and even though a period of 3 weeks has lapsed, these problems have not been addressed. Movement within the states, across the states, is a big problem. The farmers are forced to sell their product at a very low price. Even milk processing units are not working, and most of the food processing industry, except wheat, flour, etc., some basic things, is working at a capacity utilization of 25 to 30% only. Police is not abiding by the orders issued by the government of India. Initially, we wasted a lot of time in defining what is essential, what is not essential, what is grocery, what is day-to-day use, etc. Instead of just saying that movement of all kinds of food should be allowed, food as defined in the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, instead of saying that, the ministries kept saying essential, non-essential, this, that, and the other. So these problems are still not addressed. And my request to the government is, if the lockdown is going to be extended, then very clear instructions should go from the government that no food supplies are to be hampered. In fact, my suggestion to the government will be that it is not only an issue of corona, for which the Joint Secretary Health takes a press conference every day. The Cabinet Secretary should take a press conference and give a clear message as to how he wants the states to function in ensuring the supply of food items as well as the other important items.
Very valid point you're making over there. And Ramesh Chand, you were talking about this, that how we should seize this crisis as an opportunity. But once again, I want to ask you this, because supply disruption is the biggest problem that we are also facing, or it could be the biggest threat for the new motto of the government, Jaan hai or Jahan bhi hai. So how can it be ensured? How do you ensure that what do you say, that only in the green belt you have exemptions, but in the urban areas you don't have it? It's not like life in rural India is not precious. How can it be implemented? And this seems to be the overarching belief, that it will be staggered and it will begin with rural India.
Precious. It depends upon timing and it depends upon nature of activities. Now, milk produced in rural India must move out of rural India within few hours. If it does not move out of rural India and reaches processing mills or urban area within few hours, then you imagine the impact on producer as well as on consumers. So it is because of nature of agriculture, perishability, most of agriculture commodities, they are essentials, they are needed for human survival. So it is more because of nature of agriculture and also because of timing in agriculture that Rabi crops are ready for harvest. So because of these two reasons, we need to treat agriculture differently. We need to give sort of special and differential treatment to agriculture, the way we are treating health sector, the way we are treating other sectors without which we can't live. At larger level, I would like to say what our Vice Chairman wrote in some newspaper today that ultimately it is a trade-off between lives and livelihoods. So this trade-off has to be seen very, very carefully. At this stage, because of this lockdown, we have a big gain. We are able to contain COVID infection within a limit.
So that's exactly what I'm going to take across now. That's exactly the point I'm going to now take across to Niranjan Hiranandani. We, of course, read that editorial by Mr. Rajiv Kumar in today's front page of the Economic Times. Mr. Hiranandani, hope you and your family are safe and healthy. This is Nayanthara Rai. The Prime Minister motto today, after talking to Chief Ministers, is Jaan bhi or Jahan bhi. So they started talking about all of that, and that's the conversation I was just having with Dr. Ramesh Chand of the Niti Aayog. If I could lean on your expertise for that, Uddhav Thackeray, while talking, is saying you will need a lockdown till the 30th. More clarity will come in. It may not be, a blanket. It'll be staggered. But from the industry perspective as well, you have to pay salaries. There's no income coming in, and the labor has gone home. It's a sad situation. It's unprecedented. We don't know what's going to happen.
No, so basically what I'm looking at is not only the labor which has already got home, but the labor which is already here. The sad point is that the labor who's sitting over here is getting very restless. And once they come to know about the extension that there's going to be no work, even though we are feeding them and looking after them 100% complete, they're very restless. And I'm not too sure, because agricultural operations will start in the rural areas, and they are going to get jobs over there in terms of the harvesting and cutting the harvest and actually preparing the fields for the next crop. So I'm afraid that in spite of the lockdown being the way it is, you're again going to see further migration of the people who are still with us. My suggestion is very strong that except for the positions where there is hotspots in the area, the rest of the places where people are staying right at the site, at the factory sites or the construction sites, they should be also on a case-to-case basis permitted to work. This has happened in the case of Mumbai Corporation, road works, excavation works and other things. Those works have already been started. Mumbai-Nagpur road, the work has started. It is my view that where the construction workers are there, we can look after them. We can keep social distancing. We can check their temperatures every day. We can feed them and still be allowed to work within the parameters of whatever regulation is put. So my view is that while I agree 100% that the lockdown should continue, the variation and variables in respect of agriculture, transport of essential goods and all the other materials, I think we need to start some of the construction sites, as has already been done in Municipal Corporation of Greater Mumbai. We should also have the private construction sites to do. For example, we have the Cross Harbour Bridge where the construction work is there right in the middle of the sea. There's no reason to stop those works from happening. So I think the state government and local authorities could take these type of cases on a case-to-case basis. And there are millions of such workers all over the country. We are the second largest employer in India. And just as we are concerned with the farm crop, I think the construction labor will also be a little concerned about it, of those who are already there and sitting on the construction site or the labor sites.
Very valid points being made over there. What we do know is that it seems as if the centre is fully inclined towards extending the deadline till the 30th. No official word from the Prime Minister's office. There was fake news that he was going to be addressing the nation at 8 p.m. That has been corrected now. He will not be addressing the nation today. We have seen states, however, move in till then and extend the lockdown. Will it be staggered? Will we see the quarantines of hotspots the way Niranjan Hiranandani is talking about? I guess time will only tell. For now, we're completely out of time. So I'd like to thank each of my guests for taking the time out to join us here on ET Now. Stay tuned. We're right on top of how India is going to be exiting this lockdown and remaining safe and healthy.